Andy Griffith? I bet you might remember a scene or two or here or there, but I bet you remember their theme song at the beginning of every episode. They brought you back that little whistling theme song, walking with their fishing poles as if everything was ideal and everything would work out. Happy Days used to have the song Sunday, Monday, Happy Days, getting you in the mood and the mindset of what that show was all about. More modernly, we have Friends, I'll Be There For You. You have Cheers, remember that show, where they try to convince you in their theme song that living at a bar was the best place to have family and friends because everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. It doesn't matter that you're bringing them money to buy drinks or anything, but they're always glad you came. And all these theme songs repeated over and over in a rhythmic way to get in your mind and lock you in for what that show was bringing you. The same has happened with movies. With movies, think about Star Wars. In a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, and the credits scroll. You might not know anything about Star Wars, but I bet you know how they all begin with that credit scrolling up the screen. Every single time, getting you in the mood and mindset, having you so focused on that screen that you have to read those words before they get tiny. And you're so focused that when that first scene that hits, you are locked in. What about Indiana Jones? Change the way we did movies. They start off with Indiana Jones going into the temple and finding booby trap after booby trap, and then all of a sudden, what starts chasing him? A big rock just coming at him. And you might not remember much of the Indiana Jones, but you remember that beginning. You remember where it started and how that has come, and it was chasing him, and you are instantly put in a mindset of a place that this is what this story is going to be all about. Then you look at literature. Once upon a time. You hear those words and your mind is instantly transported to a time where anything could happen. To a place where dragons are real and princesses need saving. Where a noble guy with pure character will fight in shining, gleaming armor. Any foe that comes in between him and his love. You look at literature and you'll see books like Rick Warren's A Purpose-Driven Life, where he starts off with the phrase, "It's not about you," which grabs your attention when you hear something like it's called A Purpose-Driven Life, but it says it's not about you. You're like, then who's it about? What's my purpose in life? It's not about me. And it instantly hooks you. Or Charles Dickens did this with The Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Instantly, you are brought to a place where you are ready to hear. You are ready to think. You understand the theme of that whole movie or TV show or book after the very beginning. And those authors and writers have purposely chosen those exact words to start their works with because they wanted to capture your mind. They wanted to capture your thoughts. They wanted to capture your attention. And they never wanted to let it go. They wanted to head with such beauty of phrase that it stuck with you. That you didn't want to walk away from that world, that idea, that thought. They wanted it to be a rock in your shoe that you just can't shake. And they wanted to always be with you, where you would go back to it over and over again because of where it transported you in your mind and your soul and your heart. Now imagine for a second you're God. That's a scary thought for a lot of us. We'd mess it up. But imagine for a second you're God and you are looking at your creation. And you are looking at the pinnacle of your creation, humans. And you are saying, they are no longer what I have made them to be. They are missing something more beautiful, something more perfect, something more real. They are giving it up and selling it for something fake. They are not capturing the goodness and the creativity of who they are. They do not realize whose image they are made in. How do I communicate with them in such a way that I grab their heart and mind and attention in such a way that they want to come back and that they know who I am, in a way that it just saturates their every being. How do I get that? And God could have done it in many ways. The Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, as they prefer to be called now, they say their Book of Mormon was set down by God on golden tablets that Joseph Smith could put on a special pair of glasses to read, and that God dictated every single word that he recorded. Islam believes a similar kind of thing, that Muhammad was given special revelation and wrote down word for word every word as God dictated it. The Bible is a little different in that. The Bible shows that the God we believe in intimately works in and through human beings, in their time, in their place, in their personalities, in their giftings, and that through those people, God works. God works with them, through them, and in them. God transforms them through the work they do with God. And so what we have in Genesis is very interesting. Genesis is probably written by Moses, although there's debate on how Genesis was written. But there's no indication that God said, Moses, write these words and these words alone. The only time we really have that is in the Ten Commandments, which God etched with his own finger. Outside of that, we don't have a God who seemed to have dictated every single word as it was written, but rather made sure that truth was written through the authors and through the people that God was working with. Now, if that's the case, Moses was alive long after the people of the Bible. He was not there at Noah's Ark, yet he wrote about it. He was not there with Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. He was not there with Joseph of the Old Testament. He was not there at Sodom and Gomorrah. He was not there at the temple of Babel when it was being built. He was not there. Guess what? Moses was not there in the beginning. So how did Moses have the ability to write this? Was it a supernatural dream that God came to him in the middle of the night? It could have been. But more likely, as we've seen the character of God throughout Scripture, more likely, what Moses recorded in Genesis was passed down generation after generation after generation, where the people told and retold these stories, but not like we do in modern times, where we're like, what did that word say? No, they made sure they had every word correct. At like the beginning of Star Wars, like once upon a time, if somebody said once a time upon, you'd be like, whoa, something's wrong there. You know that it's once upon a time. You know the words to that. And over time, they repeated these words over and over together about what they had experienced from their God, what they had seen God do, how they've seen God work in God's people, and they repeated these stories word for word. They could tell the punchlines as kids, just as the adults would say them, and they knew every single word up to the point that Moses would have recorded it. And so how did God choose to start that book? Did he start it with a science lesson? In the beginning, a big bang. He didn't say that. Did he start it with history and say in the year 2000 BC or 25,000 BC or 10,000 BC or 10 billion BC, I did this on this moment at this time in this place? No. Would those be compelling ways to start the story of the redemption you have for humanity? God apparently didn't think so. God apparently didn't think so. He did not write it that way. The way he wrote it, the way he inspired it through Moses to write it down, was in this beautiful poem. This beautiful poem of Genesis 1. Now, some of you, your theological hairs are standing on end as I call it a poem, okay? But hear me out. It is a poem. It is written in a poetic way, in a different way than the rest of Genesis is written. It is written so beautifully and poetically. Now, that does not mean it's not literal. It can 100% be literal. If this God has the power to create, he can do anything in any order he wants at any time. It also doesn't mean that you can't believe science and what science has to say. And when they said the Big Bang Theory, did you realize most atheist scientists freaked out? Because they thought the universe was eternal, so thus needed no creator. And when they said Big Bang Theory, that pointed to a creator creating the Big Bang. And so most atheist scientists pushed back at it at first. So Genesis, the Bible, does not tell you anywhere in it that you have to take it literally or that you can take it figuratively. It leaves it up to you. Instead, it's doing something different. It is a poem. And the point of poems is different than what we usually do. Now, think of this for a minute. Think if a young soldier was off to war, okay? And they're off in the field battling. And they write a letter home to their wife or girlfriend, and they write back to them and they say, you know, if tomorrow they told me I could jump in the ocean and swim it, I would jump in the ocean and swim just to be back with you. And I would swim across the whole Pacific, the whole Atlantic, just to see you once again and give you a hug. Would you look at them and say, liar? You would not swim. You would die. You would make, okay, let's say you're in really good shape. Mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, and then guess what? You're done. You're going to get hungry and thirsty. Do you know how long that would take? You are going to starve and dry out. You are going to become weak. You will stop swimming. You will die. You will never swim an ocean for that person you love. Would you ever say that to them? No. Because that wasn't the point of his words, was it? The point was, I love you so much. You are a driving force in my life. And the words and the deeds that I can do aren't even good enough to express how much I love you. So I wrote it poetically to say I would swim an ocean for you. No, I wasn't going to swim an ocean for you, but maybe I'd try. The Bible starts off poetically. It's fully true and truth. And hear how the Bible is written in Genesis. Each day that is presented like this. Evening, morning, the first day. Evening, morning, the second day. Evening, morning, the third day. Evening, morning. Every day is said like that. Every day after God is done creating on that day, he said, and it was good. And it was good. And it was good. And then when he looked at everything, it was very good. That rhythm, you hear it. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's very good. And then the structure of the whole thing. Day 1, 2, and 3 match up with day 4, 5, and 6. The spaces and what fills them. Let there be light. Day 4, sun, moon, and stars. Day 2, the sky and the water. Day 5, you have birds and fish what fill the space. Day 3, you have land and plants. So what do you get on day 6? Animals and humans. It's this rhythm. It's this order out of chaos. It's this goodness that God is creating. God is sharing that he is creating and creative. God is sharing in this poetic nature that he could have done completely literal. It could have been something figurative or something in between. But he is saying, I am creating. It is good what I am creating. I'm doing it on purpose and for a purpose. There is an order and rhythm to what I am doing. And so how do we read this poem? There's more to it than even that. Throughout the poem, you will see all 3 parts of the Trinity. You will see God the Father speaking. You will see the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. You will hear the words, and when John 1:1, we find out the Word became flesh in the form of Jesus. So you have the Word and the Spirit and the Father all there in this story. And when they go to create God, they say, let us make God in our own image. That is plural. Before the Jews even understood the plurality of God, it was written in a plural form. And then God makes humans in his own image. You are made in the image of God, in God's likeness. There is a quality to you that people see more of God by knowing you. There are gifts that you have that are gifts because you are made in the image of the perfect, most powerful God. And as such, God then invites Adam into the creative process with Adam. He invites him in. And he says, you are to name the animals. And it shows that he is inviting him in to being creative and being a creator of his own. He's told to go and be fruitful and multiply, to create even more. To create even more. So what are we to do with this? What are we to do with this creation story, this beautiful epic poem of God's greatness and goodness and creativity, of how it reflects us? Because the point of the poem also wasn't the creation, all of it. It was God relating to us. It was God relating to us. He could have created it all and not created us and made this really good thing he never shared, but he decided to share. And so what does it say about us? What does it say about you and what you're supposed to do? Well, if you are an image bearer of God, which you are supposed to be like God. You are supposed to be a creator of good. Did you notice everything God created was good? You are supposed to be a creator of good. I want to know this about you. I want you to really take a moment to think about this. When is the last time you created good? Do you create good regularly? Do you use the image that God has made you of him in a way that creates something better in this world and improves on it and makes it not neutral, but good? And then have you shared the good you have created? Is it song that God has given you an ability to sing? Have you taken that ability to sing and created notes and sung them, not just in the shower, but with people? Have you used the ability to bake great cookies for your neighbors and gone and shared it with them and said, I just wanted to share, this is a gift God has given me and made me in the image of him and helped me be creative in this way, so I want to share it with you. Have you shared the ability your hands have? Our buildings and grounds crew this year has shared their ability to creatively solve problems and fix them. We had what we call a depression in the ground back there that has all been filled in because they worked hard. We have a roof that was put on. We have little things because they decided to make good with the gifts, the image God had made them, and to work that out here. The Crafting Guild, our missions, all these committees have done the same. They bring their giftings and they are creating good in our communities, in our church, and in our world. What about you? What about me? Am I using what God has given me to create good and then go out and share it and invite others to join in the creative process with me? With our families, have we created relationships that are simply good and beautiful with no ulterior motives, but to really love that person? Have we made great things? Have we shared those things? Because if we haven't, guys, we are missing out on the very beginning important work that God had for us. He wanted us to be like him. He wanted us to learn relationship from him. He wanted us to be creators of good. That's the start of the story. God created on purpose and for a purpose, in rhythm, made out of chaos, made order. Are we going and making order out of the chaos of this world? Are we making it good? Are we serving with our gifts and our time and our talents and sharing that with others? I'm going to give you a very good visual of this today, because you're about to hear these words in a way you've never heard them. See, I haven't read Genesis 1-2 yet because I want to do something. I want to give you different eyes to see it, different ears to hear it, and prepare your hearts for this. But there is something that you're about to experience that I know very few people who have experienced. You're going to experience someone sharing a gifting that God has given them and a passion God has given them for that has been so captivated by the beginning of this story that this story is actually memorized and written in their hearts, word for word. They're going to share their gifting because they have been creating this good, this thing in their hearts that is bent around this. They have listened to this for years at night to help them go to bed and listen to the words permeate their soul. And they have been creative in creating this good inside of their own soul. And we're going to hear them recite this story. I hate using the word story because it makes it seem fictional. They're going to recite this account of God's creation for you today. So listen with new ears, watch with new eyes, and see what God is doing in your souls.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters, to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made the space to separate the waters of the earth from the waters of the heavens. God called the space sky. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." And that is what happened. God called the dry ground land, and the waters sea. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. These seeds will produce plants and trees from which they came." And that is what happened. The land produced vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. The seeds produced plants and trees at the same time. And God saw that it was good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the third day. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them mark off the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day, and the smaller one to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the water, and every sort of bird, each producing offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply. Let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the 5th day. Then God said, Let the land produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals. And that is what happened. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, Let us make human beings in our image to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. And that is what happened. Then God said, Look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth, and all the fruit trees for your food. And I have given every green plant as food for all the wild animals, the birds in the sky, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. Everything that has life. And that is what happened. Then God looked over all he had made, and he saw that it was very good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the 6th day. So the creations of the heavens and the earth and everything in them were completed. On the 7th day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all his work of creation. This is the account of the creation of the heavens and the earth.
Good.